We're going to explore the lived experiences of contraception use for cisgendered women at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. We interviewed 5 women to gain a sense of their satisfaction with their contraceptive options, understand the process they went through when deciding which contraceptive to use, and to get a sense of how the current political and cultural climate impacted these decisions. Our participants were all students at HSPH who were between the ages of 22 and 27, identified as female, and identified as white, Latinx, and Asian. Throughout these interviews, several key themes emerged. The first is that all the women we interviewed were using the Mirena IUD as their main form of contraceptive.
I can't say enough good things about the IUD. It's like life-changing. My OB has one as well, and she was like, "You're gonna love it." And I was like, "I don't know, it hurt." You know, it's like painful to insert, but it's fantastic.
The first IUD was created in 1909 with a ring made of silkworm gut. In the 1960s, various forms of IUDs were introduced and developed from products like copper, nickel, and zinc. In 1995, only 0.8% of contraceptive users had IUDs, but recent data estimate that that number has risen to 14%. Use has especially increased in younger women, which may be because IUDs are now marketed to nulliparous women and because the Affordable Care Act eliminated the upfront cost of IUD insertion. IUDs are more than 99% effective and can be used to prevent pregnancy for several years. Some devices can also be used as an effective method of emergency contraception. Today, the most common IUDs in the United States include the Paragard, which is a copper device, and hormonal devices like the Mirena, Skyla, Liletta, and Kylena. The Mirena is a T-shaped plastic device that releases levonorgestrel, a synthetic form of progesterone. Mirena prevents pregnancy by thickening cervical mucus and thinning the uterine lining. Beyond preventing pregnancy, Mirena can decrease menstrual bleeding. About 20% of women stop having periods within 1 year of IUD insertion.
I have a Mirena IUD, and I got it put in 3 or 4 months ago. Prior to that, I was using oral contraceptives, but I really prefer the Mirena. It's been great. I got it put in, no issues.
I was really hesitant at first because my older sister has an IUD and she had a really bad experience with an acne breakout. So I was really nervous, but now I really enjoy it. And I think I kind of recommend it to all my friends, but give them the caveat that other people have different experiences, and I had a really bad experience having it placed. So I think net positive.
Studies have identified potential negative side effects in some Mirena users, including heavy menstrual bleeding, period cramping, endometriosis, and anemia, among others. Several of the interviewees mentioned some of these side effects.
Around the first year that I had it, I would get really, really bad cramps, so bad I would think I needed to go to the hospital. I would just be in bed crying. And when I would talk to my provider about it, they would just kind of be like, well, give it some more time, it'll go away, or it's different for everyone, it's not anything to worry about, they're just adjusting to it. It took a lot of endurance to wait for the cramps to just kind of slowly go away.
The role of social circles and cultural pressures in choosing the IUD as a contraceptive was a second theme that emerged during the interviews. Oftentimes, independent research and conversations with friends validated or influenced which type of contraception women did or did not want to have based on their personal preferences.
Most of my friends at this point have the Mirena, and they all raved about it. So I've been wanting to switch to it. And actually, the other reason is a very pragmatic and also long-term reason. But my sister actually recently just had her first baby, but she had been on oral contraceptive like ever since she was, teenager, early 20s. And then she went off the oral contraceptives to when she started to try to conceive. And it took her over 3 months to get a normal cycle again.
Several women also shared that when they first started birth control, there was a specific social circle they didn't want to involve: their families. The decision to not involve their families also tested the trust they had in their providers. For Audrey, this meant not going to her usual doctor so her mom wouldn't find out she was using a contraceptive.
I first started contraception when I was in high school, and I was really scared to get it because I knew I was going to be sexually active, but I didn't want to tell my mom or my provider because my provider is in the same medical group as my mom's provider, and like my mom knows a lot of the people. For example, one of the providers is the mom of a childhood friend of my sister. Since all of my friends were on the pill, I was like, I want the pill. Like, that's really all I knew that I had, like, as an option.
According to the Guttmacher Institute, family planning providers serve as the most trusted sources of information for young people when seeking out contraception. Not being able to obtain care confidentially would not only impact family relationships, but could result in foregoing needed counseling and services entirely.
I had originally been presented with taking the pill in middle school because I had really bad cramps. So like for, different reason. And my mom was like, absolutely not.
In 2 studies assessing the impact of culture and acculturation on contraceptive use among Latinas, the cultural emphasis on family and motherhood, religion, and social disapproval of extramarital sex all influenced contraceptive use. Although Latina adolescents face many of the same barriers as other adolescents, like lack of insurance and not knowing where to go for contraception, the worries about violating cultural expectations overshadowed logistical barriers.
I grew up in a Catholic Mexican household. I knew everything that I knew about like reproductive health. I knew through, I guess, like school or looking it up on my own. It wasn't talked about at home, except for condoms, maybe.
Autonomy and power are salient themes within the topic of contraception. For the women we interviewed, times of transition, such as beginning high school or moving away to college, provided a unique opportunity for women to exercise their autonomy outside of their familial context. This time of transition gave them more power to choose which contraceptive method they wanted to use without fear of familial response.
I was going to college, so I was like, okay, if I'm going to be dating people, I want to be, safe about this. So I should probably go on some kind of birth control. Like, I talked to my doctor too. I was like, I want to go on the pill before college. And she was like, okay, like this works. We can do it for acne so your mom doesn't get mad, essentially.
With these experiences of newfound autonomy came increased feelings of power over their own bodies and reproductive processes. In particular, the power to choose both when to get pregnant and the decision to not get pregnant at all. Nevertheless, the current political climate in the United States, and Texas in particular, has challenged the autonomy and power that women have over their reproductive choices. At the end of October of 2021, Texas officially passed a law that bans most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. The standard set by Roe v. Wade was 24 weeks, the point at which a fetus would survive outside of the uterus. This law has far-reaching effects, but understanding how this law and the possibility that other states might pass similar legislation could influence women to reconsider their current form of contraception.
Previously, I was dating a woman and I was like, oh, why do I really need to have an IUD? Like, I've been on contraception for so long, like, I should try to go off it and see if my hormones feel differently. And then, with all of this abortion stuff coming up, I was like, oh my gosh, I am very scared of situations like the Handmaid's Tale, and I know that seems extreme, but now I thought it was extreme that we'd be even in a situation where we're considering turning down Roe.
I want to get my next IUD as soon as possible so that I know I'm good for 5 more years or however long. It's, I think, horrifying. So yeah, I think there's a lot of women, I can't imagine being there, but I think there's a lot of women that got scared, and are now considering how can I be safe for the next couple of years, but hopefully it will not be an issue.
It's funny because I feel like this is similar to the way I've thought about COVID in the past year or two, that I am lucky that I'm living in a relatively liberal state, because I am not that worried things are going to change for me, and I plan on living in states like this. And also right now I'm on a contraceptive that is going to be in for a while now, so I'm not really worried about my ability to use that contraceptive going away, unless, knock on wood, some sort of awful scenario happens.
Thinking through a reproductive justice lens, choice rhetoric can be rejected because of how it minimizes the impact of structural and social inequities. It asserts that women's individual choices are only as empowering as the resources that they can turn to in their community. This new Texas law forces us to ask, where do we go from here? How can we ensure that women continue to feel supported in their reproductive choices? And how do we ensure equity and focus on reproductive justice?